Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you want to know what it is? It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. When you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. That you are a slave of prison for your mind.
And thank you for joining us. That's right. This is your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. And thank you for bearing with me with a little bit of the dramatics that we put up there. But quite seriously, this is a big issue, a big subject to be talking about. For a long time, there has been an issue that we've been talking about on this program and we've written about for the last 15 years, the Second Amendment. It's an important part of America. Actually, it is one of the cornerstones of America. It's that with the First Amendment makes America unique in the world. And this is something that is under assault. It's a problem. Some people would like to take a very Matrix-esque kind of approach to the Second Amendment, taking it away from you, hiding it from you. And they're doing so very subtly and over many years so that you don't notice what they're doing. But we want to point that out and we want to bring it up because this is something that has gotten to a point that is dangerous. And we need to discuss this. So over the years, we've been talking about what is going on with gun control and what's really the impact of gun control and gun restriction legislation. In fact, going back to 2012, we were talking about the New York SAFE Act. What are we really trying to say? Are we trying to put a gun control ban on guns because we want to protect each other? Because we want to make sure that no person who's mentally unstable or a criminal who is intent on causing harm, we want to make sure they can't get these things. Well, they can get any of these things. They can go down to a five and dime or grocery store. They can go anywhere. They can go into their house or your house, and they will find any of these items, and they can use them to kill you because they are criminal and mentally unstable. That's right. That's in 2012 when we were talking about the impending New York SAFE Act, a bill that was designed and stated to be protection, something that would make you safe, that would remove the threat of mass shootings, that would remove the threat of criminals and the mentally insane from harming others. It has failed every year and continues to fail, but yet it's on the books. And in fact, we know that it's gotten even worse. Matter of fact, we were talking about this even more back in 2016 when we were speaking with you in reference to the further problems coming from gun control advocates. We were talking about this, about how the numbers are used to lie to us. Besides the fact that shotguns were used more often than all rifles and handguns were used 22 times more often, but there is no ban on them, oddly, there are a few other far less quoted facts. 1.7 times more people, 435, were killed with hammers than all rifles. 2.6 times more people, 660, were killed by hand than all rifles. 6.3 times more people, 1,567, were killed with knives than all rifles. Thus, if the goal of the New York SAFE Act and the various executive orders of President Obama are about saving lives, why are handguns, hammers, and knives not banned? Are the lives lost to these weapons not important? The point is, not the fact is that if the goal is about saving lives by restricting weapons, President Obama Governor Andrew Cuomo and the anti-Second Amendment minority have missed the boat. You could even say that they are being counterproductive and endangering lives because their focus is on the least dangerous aspect. And this is something that we highlighted not only in 2012, but in since 2012, and many videos and articles like that one, that the real threat to the American people has never been lawful gun ownership. In fact, the threat has always been the criminally insane, those who are criminal and have an intent to harm, and legislators promising that government will protect you. In fact, we went further to say this in May of 2019, when we said, being an example where criminals are not being held back by the laws that are being passed. No one's made safer. The red flag laws only work if someone thinks you're a danger to you, to yourself, or your community. The kids weren't considered a danger to anyone. Didn't mean that they weren't a danger, they weren't considered it. The teachers had no reason to look at those kids and go, oh, they may be a danger. They were on no one's radar. They were making bombs, which are absolutely point blank illegal since 1934. So it wasn't even a question of, ooh, look, they have bombs. It's illegal by definition for anyone. You can't get that. So none of these laws made anyone safer. That's right. And that's always been true. None of the gun control laws make people safer. And each and every time we keep hearing from various members of the legislature, of the Congress, of our states, our localities telling us, but we will make you safe. You will be safe. Well, in May of 2019, we were talking about the bombing threats following those in Islamberg, in Long Island, New York, where individuals were making bombs. Again, you're not safer. And it gets worse and worse as we go. And the lies, the incredulity of these officials trying to convince you to ignore what your eyes are showing you, to ignore what your ears are hearing, to believe them, because only they know the truth. In fact, we heard from Representative Sheila Jackson Lee as she lied to the face of Americans across this nation, talking about how a AR-15 is massively heavy, firing a 50 caliber bullet, and other incredulous lies that we pointed out back on September 24th of 2019. I can tell you that I don't know of anyone who can't hold an AR-15. She's talking about it's the same weight as 10 packing boxes. How much does a packing box weigh? What's in that packing box? I have no idea. Is she talking about 100 pounds? She's talking about 50 pounds? If she's talking 10 pounds, that's still more than an AR-15. She has no concept of what she's talking about. And you're saying to me, well, Mike, how do you know that's for sure? How do you know? Because on CNN in 2015, they did an article on Cheyenne Roberts. She's a 10-year-old girl, and she is in the image on the right-hand side. She's holding an AR-15 that is modified, in fact, heavier than an average actual AR-15. And she's firing it with no problem whatsoever. That's not a 50 caliber round she's firing. It's that 5.56. And she's firing it. She's actually an expert shooter, and she's holding that up. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I'm not comparing Representative Sheila Jackson Lee to me when I was in the Marines 30 years ago, or even today. But I am comparing her to a 10-year-old girl. And I have to believe that Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, even if she does absolutely no exercise whatsoever, can lift up an AR-15. Yeah. We've had representatives like Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, a staunch anti-Second Amendment advocate, someone who is looking to disarm and leave defenseless the American people. She's come out and made these allegations that a 10-year-old girl refutes. And I have to ask the question, we have to understand the situation of, has this helped us at all? Has this improved our lives? Have they made us safer as they have lied to our face, telling us that something a 10-year-old can do is impossible? Well, the simple answer is no, it isn't. If we go just simply to the news, and just in Houston, where Sheila Jackson Lee is the congresswoman, well, and 400 people have been murdered in Houston in 2020, according to the December 29th, 2020 article by ABC 13 News. That was a spike and a high all time. It's higher than what they had seen even in 2015. It's a 42% increase over 2019. And what we can tell for sure about this is that they weren't the only city that had that problem. In fact, we know that this has happened according to the National Fraternal Order of Police. Well, we see that Philadelphia, Minneapolis, Indianapolis, New Orleans, Nashville, Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, Houston, L.A., St. Louis, Milwaukee, Seattle, St. Louis, Dallas, Miami, Atlanta, Boston. Every single one of these major cities had the same increase in violent crime in 2020. And just about every single one of these cities also had riots and, quote, protests, mostly peaceful protests, as we are told by CNN and MSNBC, happened in every one of these major cities. So again, we see that the violent, the criminal, have gone out and they committed crimes. With guns and also without. We weren't made any safer. Matter of fact, if we look at Chicago today, right now, according to the last reporting, January 12th, Tuesday, in Chicago, according to the Chicago Tribune, 91 people have been shot this year, 33 more people than in 2020. That is an enormous number. And something that we should take away from that is that Chicago has every single legislation, every gun control issue, every promise that has ever been made about gun control over the last 50 years exists in Chicago and has existed for decades. And yet, we have seen that this is one of the deadliest cities in America. Over 4,000 people were shot in 2020 alone. And again, 91 just in the first 18 days of 2021. We have not been made any more safe. And yet we are hearing from representatives in Congress, in our states, that are telling us, all from the Democratic side, the progressive movement, that are telling us, don't worry, just give the government a little more power, take away a little bit more of your rights, and you will be safe. In fact, they have gone so far in New York State, as an example, to introduce Bill A352, which we were recently speaking about, a bill that will remove the ability of American citizens, law-abiding citizens, to protect themselves passively. In fact, what we said was, New York, there are members of the New York Assembly and therefore the New York population, it would seem, but more likely the legislative class, that want to give you a crime. It is a crime to own body armor. What is a bulletproof vest? It's a way to protect you. It's a way to protect your life. That's what a bulletproof vest does. Now, I'm not sure if anyone is aware, and I'm not aware of it, of how a bulletproof vest is able to harm others. And that's a really good question. How does a passive defense for human beings somehow become a crime? To defend yourself without harming anyone else, for not even intruding on anyone's life, just to merely protect you. And that's a crime? That's what some Democrats in New York State want to make a crime? Does that make any sense? Well, there are some who try to make sense out of it. They've been wondering about this, and they're trying to come up with an answer. I look to Maj Toure as one of the individuals who tries to give an answer on this.
The powers that be try to make sure that they're doing everything to disarm, urban America for the most part, specifically, but not limited to. Because empowering those people would expose the fact that they're actually not the powers that be. We are. The problem is if you can, deep pine a porcupine, it's easy prey, and so we the porcupines, we running around here with spines and quails and things that can defend us. So if we can, if those false powers that be can convince us to give away our ability to defend ourselves and defend our value systems, it's easy to neutralize them. I mean, every time.
That's really interesting when we hear that from Maj. When they take away our ability to defend ourselves, well, they can do anything. They can impose anything. There are no rights separate of the government if the government is the only one who can enforce whatever they wish. They deprive us of our freedom and our ability to make choices in our life because the government has the power. The government has the guns. And that's a terrifying thought. In fact, it was so terrifying that even back at the creation of America, our founding fathers said the government should never have that ability. The government should never have that right, because that's what the Second Amendment is about. It's not about hunting. It's about protecting ourselves from foreign and domestic agents that would seek to remove our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's a pretty straightforward thought. But it would seem that it's not straightforward enough. In fact, again, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has come back out again, and she has stated that she wants to put forward H.R. 127, which is to provide for the licensing of firearms and ammunition possession and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. That's a lot. But you may be wondering, what does that actually mean? Because there is no text. In fact, if you try and search for it, there is no text. This is a bill that was introduced on January 4th of 2021, and there is no wording. We know nothing about this bill besides its title, that Representative Sheila Jackson Lee wants Americans to have to get a license to be able to get a firearm and to be able to get ammunition and to own ammunition, and that they must register those firearms so that the government knows where they are, and that you can only have certain types of firearms. How is this not restrictive? How does this not destroy the Second Amendment? Well, we have to wonder, what is this really about? What is this bill saying? Because we don't know. We don't know because it's not being printed. It's being, at this moment, held in secret, it seems. It's only been 14 days, 2 weeks since this bill was introduced, and there is not a single word about it. Although we do have some hints. As we heard from Colion Muir, a wonderful advocate of the Second Amendment, as he says in this portion.
The biggest issue that I have with owning a license, required to have a license in order to simply own a firearm, is because it'll inevitably be used as a way to prevent people from actually getting a firearm. The requirements could be so intrusive, so exhaustive, that by and large, it's just going to make the process of owning a gun pretty much obsolete. And to be honest with you, the people who are going to be hurt by it the most are going to be people who are in a lower economic status, because I'm pretty sure it's going to come with certain requirements for training. I'm pretty sure it's going to come with certain requirements as far as money is concerned, and fees and time. And not everybody has time to take off to go get a gun license and go through that process. And let's be real. Do we really want to trust the government with processing the license to own firearms when we have over 400 million guns in this country? Do you not understand the type of undertaking that would be, how much money that would require? And to cap everything off, what exactly is a gun licensing requirement going to actually do to stop gun violence?
And there is the question. And that's the major question. What does this do to stop gun violence? And it's a question we've been asking, again, since 2012. The New York SAFE Act, what does it do to stop gun violence? Nothing. What about the red flag laws that were enacted in 2019? What does it do to stop gun violence? Nothing. What do any of these laws that have been proposed, and each and every time over the last 50 years, which is the same thing being requested each and every time, ban guns, take them away from the American public, the law-abiding American public, that 99.994% of Americans, 160 million people, do not break the law. How does that make them safer? It never has, because it's not supposed to. And we have a big problem right now. This is a massive problem, because over and over again, we see these legislators coming forward and they're putting out these bills trying to hide it from the American people and leaving you in the dark on what is it they're actually doing. And I want to be very clear. Sheila Jackson Lee, representative, congresswoman, when she put this bill through on January 3rd, she's never mentioned a single word about it. You can go to her Facebook page, as I have. You can go to her YouTube page, as I have. You will not find any information. You can even go to the Twitter page for Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, and you will see she does not say anything about this bill, her bill, a bill that is designed to take away your right to the Second Amendment. She's moving forward on it. She's making this, and she wants to make this an act of law, but she doesn't want to talk to you about it because she's not prepared to tell you the same lie that we keep hearing over and over and over again. All you have to do is to give away your rights, and the government will take care of you. Except, as we have seen over and over again, especially in 2020, that's not true. As we saw with the riots with BLM across this entire nation, when we watched Minneapolis burn down, when we watched the Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, take over and capture American citizens and territory, land, and block that off from the American people, something that by definition is insurrection and yet was called mostly peaceful. We have a problem. We have a problem, and it's not just the New York SAFE Act. It's not just the red flag laws. It's not just HR 127, whatever that might entail. Is that we're watching our government go out and say, not only can you not defend yourself with a firearm to protect your family, yourself, women from being raped and pillaged. No, you can't even defend your body with body armor. You have to be absolutely defenseless so that the government can decide what's going to happen next. Let me ask a very simple question. How many criminals have ever registered their firearms before they decide to go out and rob a bank, to rape someone, to commit a mass shooting? They don't. How many of these criminals are going out and they're registering the bullets that they're owning, the guns that they are using, letting the government know that they have these firearms? They don't. The Crips don't do it. The Bloods don't do it. Antifa doesn't do it. We don't see that. What they do is they commit crimes. And they commit crimes not with rifles, but with handguns. And they're And that, again, points out the idiocy of these anti-Second Amendment advocates. They're focused on rifles, the scary-looking things that you see in the movies. But as we have seen over and over and over again, hammers, hands, and knives are hundreds of percent more deadly than any rifle in America. That is a fact, proven year after year after year. The trouble and the problem is criminals don't care about the law. Law-abiding citizens do. And in taking away the ability of American citizens to protect their homes and their families and themselves from rape and robberies and murders, and to even protect themselves with body armor to passively take care of themselves, as Bill A352 would seek to do, that leaves us defenseless at a time that we're watching our government take the most aggressive stance we have ever seen. There are 25,000 troops in Washington, D.C. right now. 25,000 troops. That's more than the number of Americans in the active war zones in Afghanistan at this moment. That says something. And at the same time, they're trying to take away our ability to own firearms, to protect ourselves, and even to protect our bodies. Folks, we have a problem in America. And that problem isn't from the left or the right per se. It's not about people's political preferences. It's not about whether or not someone uses the correct wording when they talk about someone who's gay or they're trans. It's not about whether or not we voted for this person or that person. Is that there is a collected, significant group of individuals that tend to be Democrats and or progressives that want you to be defenseless, and they have your name on lists, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has requested. They are actively going through and trying to take away your representatives from Congress, as we've seen with Tammy Duckworth and with Nancy Pelosi. They're trying to leave you without any of the power guaranteed by the Constitution and the amendments. There is a hidden problem in America. There is a hidden danger in America. And that danger is that we are losing our rights and our freedoms, as exemplified by what's happening with the Second Amendment. And it's being done with the promise, you're going to be okay. This is for your safety. As Ronald Reagan once said, don't worry, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And you should be terrified when you hear that. But perhaps you disagree. Perhaps you think we've gotten it wrong, that we don't understand, that the years and many, many articles we have written about this and we have spoken with you about, that we just don't understand it. We want to hear your comments. Tell us how we don't get it right. Or if you agree, please like, share, and most of all, subscribe so that we can share this message with many other people, because we believe in the First Amendment on this program. And we look forward to hearing your voice. And most importantly, to make sure our elected leaders hear this voice too. I thank you, and I hope you're going to be well, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.